Welcome to the Eddie Lamb Show. We dedicate this podcast to interviewing musicians of every kind, as well as online content creators on social media. Whether if they're starting out or if they're already on the rise and still growing, this show is all about having a fun conversation with our guests, talking about their favorite things that relate to their passion for their projects. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's have that conversation. Have you ever gone to a concert and fell in love with the bands you see perform on the big stage? What about discovering new musical talent through different outlets, including live shows, online, or even just word of mouth? What about seeing an incredibly skilled local band that's still brand new to the scene and you got the chance to connect with them before they potentially become big stars? How about making friends with other like-minded music fans to be part of a cool community? My guest for this episode has gone through these experiences, and to me, she's one of the coolest music fans you'll ever meet. Her name is Sydney, an American podcaster who lives in Minnesota. Sydney runs an online talk show called Pop Punk Promo. Pop Punk Promo is dedicated to interviewing rock bands and artists who may not be well known but have so much potential. Sydney also puts emphasis on chatting with female-fronted bands and artists and has done an amazing job to support the musical underdogs. In this episode, the interviewer finally gets interviewed. And what better way to do that than having her as our special guest on this edition of the Eddie Lamb Show. Okay, everybody, we are here with one of the coolest music fans that this world needs. This world needs this amazing music fan who knows a lot about bands, loves going to concerts, and so if you ever see her, make sure you go say hi to her and you can talk about your favorite bands, your favorite songs, your favorite albums, because that's how amazing she is. So without further ado, everybody, here is this amazing, cool lady who runs a really cool program called Pop Punk Promo, a podcast dedicated to recognizing artists of every kind, especially females in the rock scene. This is Sydney. I'm so happy to have her on the show. Welcome to the show, Sydney. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am doing so amazing. Thank you so much for having me on here today. It feels weird to be on the other end of the interview situation, you know?
Of course, but the thing is, we always appreciate you always recognizing the underdogs of the music scene. This is kind of our way to give back. So that's why, you always put in the effort to get to know us, but this time we really want to get to know about you, because obviously with you as a content creator, you always give so much good insights and all the latest scoops of bands that don't get heard about, don't get talked about too often. So that's why we always appreciate your content that you post. Whenever you have a new episode, everybody gets excited about it, and we are so glad that we tune in and listen to your podcast.
Thank you so much. That really honestly just means a lot to me. I started Pop Punk Promo like a year and a half ago, and honestly, I didn't even expect it to gain like the amount of hype it's gotten to this point. Like it's crazy. I've met so many incredible people, including yourself. You've been on my show as well. For people who don't know that, you can go check that out. It's available at poppunkpromo.com.
It's an amazing
But it's
episode.
yeah,
Not to brag or anything, but
it was no, it was awesome. And Eddie and I have become pretty good friends since then too. And it's cool. And I just love the network of incredible musicians and music fans that I've made along the way. It's super fun.
I'm really glad that you've actually got the chance to expose all these different, both underground and even rising stars too, which I think is really amazing, because it's quite the wide variety that we see from your roster of guests on your show. And of course, we all know even recently your episode with Nick Karcher, that was so much fun, and I can tell you guys became BFFs instantly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was actually his second time on the show. He joined us about a year ago, for the first time, and I've just been hyping up his music ever since. And so I've reached the point now where I've been doing this for a year and a half. I'm like, of course, I'm always bringing on new artists, but I really like catching up with old friends as well, and like helping promote some of their new stuff, whether it be like an EP or a new single, an album, something like that. So I always love finding those opportunities to bring on old friends. It's really fun.
Well, what I liked about that interview as well, because it's like you can tell that was a follow up interview because remember how Nick was talking about how ever since then, from the last time you guys spoke, a lot has changed on his end. Right. And
Yeah.
he said, hey, you know what? I became a completely different person since the last time I talked to you. And I think he mentioned that it reflects on that both him personally and also on his music, too. And
Yeah,
when you see,
absolutely.
and I just like how like that you can easily spot that too, even just by the conversation, right? But I know the one thing that hasn't changed is that you two still get along with each other really well, and I think that's such a really cool, wholesome moment to experience from that episode.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that, and it's really cool too to know that someone like you who I have interviewed, like you still support me so heavily, and like you are still listening to all the episodes I do, which is so cool. It's fun, and I think that's been like the most rewarding part about doing this
Yeah,
is seeing the fan base grow, seeing all of the artists interact with each other. Like
that's
a
right.
lot of times, people that I bring on my show they actually go out and seek out the other artists that I've interviewed before,
That's
and
awesome.
it's just such a cool feeling because now we all have, like, this pop punk promo community, and it's something that I honestly never could have imagined would happen, you know?
Well, you've done such a great job with that to build that community of both music fans and artists alike. And I think what you've done with that podcast is that you have made that nice bridge for everyone to be in the same room together to really enjoy the common things that they like music related. And I think that that is such a really outstanding thing that you've accomplished. And I know for years to come, it's going to be a really cool thing that will still happen. But what I feel about that too with that podcast was just like the archives that you had was insane because I think for those who may not know, last month I was on a trip. In April 2024, I was on a trip to China for a couple of weeks, and of course, in some parts of mainland China, we had some internet restrictions, right? And so the only one of the only apps that I could use was Spotify, and Pop Punk Promo was one of the podcasts I listened to that helped kept me entertained when I was staying at my hotel. Because I mean, you can't go on YouTube in that part of town, and so thank goodness for your podcast, Sid. Because honestly, re-listening to all the old ones I've heard before, like your interview with Ricky, for instance, and of course, but then fast forward to your interview with our old friend Maggie Schneider from
Yeah.
Glimmers. So both those interviews kept me entertained too during my stay, and I'm so glad I had that happening.
Yeah. That means so much to me, like, when you reached out to me and you were like, "Yo, I'm in China, I have very limited app capability, but, like, your podcast is the thing keeping me entertained." Like, that meant so much to me, like, you don't even know, like, it's just it's so cool to know that people love what I'm doing, not only that, but, like, they reach out to me and tell me I'm doing a good job too. Because like, truthfully, it's like I don't really do this with anyone else. Like, obviously, I do this with the guests, like the people I chat with on like an interview, but otherwise, like this is kind of a solo experience. So like, I any feedback is always so good, and I appreciate that.
Anytime. And I know with the premise of your podcast, you're all about the cool bands that you've discovered. And what I like about it is, of course, you talk about bands of every level, right? You always kept it up to date with us on the news on the big name bands that are on tour. They got new songs released, but you also do the same thing for even the smaller scale bands that deserve to be heard. Of course, with so much of your emphasis with female fronted artists, female fronted bands and female artists of every kind. And that's what I'm pretty sure, the whole world has admired you so much for on that. Now, with that being said, the one, I guess one of the questions that people are dying to know is your first concert. Can you tell us about the first concert that you remembered going? How old were you at the time? What was the time period? How did you discover this concert? And did you have a good time? Tell us all about it.
Sure. Yeah. So the first like relevant concert I remember going to, and I'm sure I've been to a couple before that, but this was the first one that I consider like big time concerts, right? Um, I was in 8th grade. I think that makes me like 14, 13. I don't know, whatever. But I went to go see Kesha, and that
Wow.
was awesome. That was awesome. So I grew up in the early 2000s, and that was just the time for like hyper pop music and like just super cool like cool pop music. So Kesha was the first person I saw, and I found out about the concert because like a family friend had like extra tickets and they were like, "Yo, do you guys want to go?" And so like I went with my sister and like our family friends, and we had a great time. And like thinking back, like I was like, what were we doing in the pit of like a Kesha concert at like 13? I don't know. It feels weird now because we were like standing there getting like beer spilled on us by a bunch of adults, but honestly, we're having a great time. There were glitter cannons. It was
That's
like
right.
it was the best. So I haven't seen Kesha since then, but honestly, I would love to because she's awesome. She slays. I love everything about her.
And the thing about Kesha too, I mean, obviously, we've seen her journey on the news throughout the years, right? She's been through
Yeah.
so much with all the controversies that happened around her career, obviously, and of course, I
Mhm.
encourage you folks to look it up on the internet of all the of the history of everything Kesha's gone through since the beginning, but to see someone like her who's gone through a lot and could still come back to the Grammy Awards and sing an amazing song with all her might, it's just cool to witness
Mhm.
that, right? And of course, with you as
Yeah.
someone who's seen her live since the early years, I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
you've noticed the growth throughout the years for her. And
Absolutely.
it's so funny how you mentioned Kesha too, because during that time period, right, like the mid 2000s was that time when all the new stars, well, they were new at the time, but all the legendary stars who were just starting out were breaking into the scene, mainstream wise. Of course, we got Katy Perry as one of them too. Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
who and who else, right? You can name some other pop singers too. They were starting
Yeah.
to get really huge and gain international recognition.
Yeah, like Miley Cyrus was huge back in the day.
That's right. Yeah.
Even Taylor Swift was starting to gain traction back then too. Like now she's literally like the most famous woman in the world. Like, but but yeah, no. So Kesha was my very first like real concert. I think my mom took me to like American Idol Live or whatever they did like back
Whoa.
in the day, you know?
Whoa,
I
I
think she
remember
took me to
that.
that. Yeah, I was like a kid or something, so I don't really remember it to be honest, but I remember going and it was fun. But the first one I consider my real concert was Kesha. But if you want to know, like, as far as like music I listen to now,
Yeah.
my first like pop rock
Yeah.
concert I ever went to was 5 Seconds of Summer.
No kidding.
So that was awesome. I saw them in 2014 and I had the best time of my life. It was so awesome. It was like their first headline tour, the like
That's
Rock Out
right.
with Your Socks Out tour. Um and I had literally I like cried because I fell in love with them so hard. Like growing up in like my middle school era, I loved One Direction. Like I was
That's
like
right.
one of those bitches, okay? Like I don't know if I can swear on this, but I just did. So, um
Whatever.
but yeah,
No
I was
judgment
I
here.
was one of I was one of them, and I I found Five Sauce through One Direction, and then that kind of, ironically enough, kind of got me more into like the pop rock music that I listen to now, and then it just evolved from there. It was crazy.
So it looked like 5 Seconds of Summer pretty much became your bridge into the rock world on your end, which is
Yeah,
quite fascinating if you think about it, right? Because you went from this transition to seeing Kesha live to a different style building up to that. But
yeah,
obviously, for everyone who is, from the late millennial to early Gen Z, who grew up in the 2000s, experiencing these artists at a young age too, right? It's engraved in your childhood forever in a fun way.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
feel like everyone's era of life has a soundtrack to it, right? And so,
yeah,
when you look at these folks like One Direction, when you look at these folks like the Jonas Brothers or 5 Seconds of Summer, it's like, some of the hits that you hear now that maybe the whole world is hearing, versus how how with you. you follow people back in their early years as well, and maybe not everyone has heard their stuff
Mhm.
before, right? Like for those who may not know, for 5 Seconds of Summer, they got some other bangers, pre Young Blood years, because
Yeah.
Young Blood's a great young is a great single. Like, I mean, it's all over the
Yeah.
radio. We all know that, but if you guys have heard the other stuff back in the day, you'll be like, wow, like
Oh,
how come I didn't hear
they
this one before?
they were so, like, boy bandy back in the day too, and I had this, like, weird British music phase of my life that kind of coincided with One Direction, and it was like I listened to people like Ed Sheeran and Cher Lloyd and Ollie Murs and Little Mix, like, I had, like, a full era of my life that was, like, dedicated to that music.
Right.
It was so weird.
What about Jessie
Um
J? Were you a fan of hers too?
A little bit, yeah. I knew, like, her, like, famous songs, like, her really popular ones, like Domino, I really like that one.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't consider myself, like, a fan, if that makes sense, but,
Yeah.
like, I definitely vibed with her stuff
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, for
That's
sure.
right. Yeah.
Um, but another thing that's interesting, though, is so, like, I think definitely, yes, 5 Seconds of Summer was, like, my bridge kind of from, like, more pop into, like, the alt rock, but rock has also been a part of my life, like, forever, like, growing up, one of my, like, fondest memories just, like, as a kid was, like, my dad playing Green Day in the car, like,
Good choice.
yeah, as soon as, American Idiot came out, like, he had the whole CD and everything and would play it in the car all the time, like, when I was growing up, and I also had, like, a mad fascination with, Guitar Hero, and I loved Guitar Hero so much, so, like, rock was definitely, like, incorporated into my life from a
Nice.
young age, and that's definitely where the fascination came in.
Nice. And you know what? This is gonna show you how much I've been paying attention to your content. I remember you had a conversation with Nick Karcher about this from the last episode. You guys were talking about
Yeah,
Guitar Hero, and
we were, yeah.
yeah. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because like you think about these video games, like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and Karaoke Revolution. If anyone remembers
Yeah,
that back in the day, both all those games, like man, even if you've never heard of these songs, these games will bring you to enjoy those songs if it hits you
yeah,
really hard somehow, right? And
yeah.
I feel like it seems like a lot of these different media avenues, like video games or even movie soundtracks, for example, if a song hits you, then you're like, wow, I really enjoyed the song because of that movie or because of that TV show or because of that video game, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be the soundtrack of my life too. And so, which leads me to this next question. With you as a music fan, is there any kind of soundtracks that you really dig, like any kind of movies or video games or TV shows?
The first one that comes to mind is The Greatest Showman soundtrack.
Yes,
I love it so much. If you guys haven't, like, watched it, it's literally just like a musical movie with Zac Efron and Zendaya and Hugh Jackman,
that's right.
and it's so awesome. It's so awesome. I don't know. I love everything about it. I, like, find myself singing the songs all the time. Like, I don't know. I just love it.
hmm I gotta give credit to Hugh Jackman as well, just because with him doing that, and then of course he also did Les Miserables, and just hearing him doing music like that. But then he also acts as Wolverine, because we all knew him as
Yeah.
Wolverine back in those days, right? And then
Yeah,
there's the
he that's literally what I associate him with. So, like, seeing him, like, singing, I was like, "This is so weird," but, like, he's good at it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think he did that. He did a bit of singing too, like a long time ago when he was. I think I want to. I'll have to research this. So people, Google it if you can to confirm if possible. But I think if I recall, he hosted the Oscars a long time ago and did some singing in it somehow, and that's when I knew he became a
Oh,
singer. But I could be wrong here, so I will look that up to see if it's accurate or not. But anyways, but
yeah.
I think that is a memory that I had, was that he was being a part of an award show, did some singing, and he killed it. And so I think that's really
Mhm.
great that people can diversify that way. And I'm really glad that with you saying that you enjoyed The Greatest Showman, and of course all the other musicals. I feel like they should be appreciated in a way too, because like I mean, let's face it. I know like we all like our favorite top 40 tracks, but I mean, come on guys, musicals are super catchy, and I'm pretty sure you can agree with me on that.
Yeah. And they're so cool. Like I grew up as like a band kid. Like I was never in theater or anything, but I always
Yeah.
like appreciated it, and I had theater friends and stuff like that. And like I've always loved a good musical. I don't know. It's so good. Like Mamma Mia. Oh my God, I love Mamma Mia.
Oh, give credit to ABBA, because ABBA's songwriting style is so unique in its own way, and honestly, it's not one of those pop tunes where you can just easily just pick it up and just memorize it, and that's it. There's a lot of
Right.
tracks out there that is actually incredibly difficult, and for someone like me who's done ABBA songs for live shows. I have so much mad respect for the people who wrote the songs behind the scenes for
Yeah.
ABBA. They've done such great work. But it's so funny how you mentioned Mamma Mia, because everyone always thinks about Dancing Queen, but then there's the other hits
Hmm.
too. I mean, of course, Mamma Mia, but then they also do other songs like Voulez-Vous, Gimme Gimme Gimme,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when you've been exposed to all these different ABBA songs from Mamma Mia, like you must have been like, oh wow, I forgot about this song or that song.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I definitely associate ABBA with Mamma Mia. Like that's like 100%. I'm like, "Oh yeah, they did the Mamma Mia movie." Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um I don't know. But yeah, I love musicals too, and I want to definitely get like more into like actually going to see like live musicals and stuff. Like
Yeah.
speaking of that, like I always have wanted to see American Idiot on Broadway. Oh
Oh
my
yes, that's
God.
right. Yeah.
I've always wanted to see that. Like I think I would die. I would cry.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. Green Day has been so incorporated in like my childhood and in my whole life. So like that's something that would definitely be on my bucket list for sure.
And we gotta thank your old man for that, for showing you Green Day's music. So the next
Yeah.
question for that is, what was that Green Day song that your dad played?
Okay. So he would play the whole album, like all of American Idiot, but the song that he plays, or maybe the top, this is so hard. I distinctly remember Holiday and American Idiot were
Awesome.
both songs that he played a lot.
Awesome.
But otherwise it was like it was the whole album. Like I know that front to back, like in order, everything. Like it's
Everything.
awesome.
Of course, Boulevard Broken Dreams, Jesus of Suburbia.
Yes.
Uh, it's
Oh,
all.
I love Jesus of Suburbia. Okay, it was three. It was Holiday, Jesus of Suburbia, and American Idiot were like the three he played the most, I feel
That's right.
like.
That's awesome. And so, in terms of everything that you produce in pop punk promo, we all know that, your emphasis on the importance of both female fronted bands and female acts, right? It's something that I can tell you're so passionate about, and
Hmm.
so I know that everyone always has talked about the importance of, well, there's more to female acts besides Paramore, besides Tonight
Hmm.
Alive, right? And besides Evanescence, for all these rock. I mean, these are great bands, like you always say, right? Like they are amazing,
Yeah.
iconic bands. But man, folks, like I know you always encourage people to reach out and explore all these different cool new upcoming acts that deserve to be recognized. But then there's also some that I know you say that they've been around the block for quite some time, but they still don't have that recognition. So my question to you is there somebody that you could recommend to us, like a nice top 5 list of underrated but yet should be recognized bands or artists that come to mind?
Ooh. Are you looking for just women fronted?
Yes.
Okay. First one that comes to mind to me is Lolo. I love her so much. She is like kind of a sad emo alt pop rock type vibe. So if you
Yes.
like that, you'll really like her. She actually just did a feature with The Devil Wears Prada, which is actually insane because she doesn't do that type of music, but it's
What?
a really
Seriously?
awesome feature. No, I'm so serious. It's called Reasons. It just came out this week. So if you look it up after this, it's really good. I really, really like it.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, so Lolo is the first one. Second one I would say is Scene Queen. She gets a lot of online hate for no reason, simply because she expresses her femininity like so loudly, and she expresses like her queerness and stuff, but like she gets so much hate for just being herself, and it
Right.
really sucks. But her music, I'm not gonna lie, at first it definitely took it, like threw me for a loop. I was like, what am I listening to? But like it
Yeah.
grew on me, like uh slowly, but like I have a fascination with her now. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's she titles it bimbo core because her aesthetic is like is that's what she calls it, is bimbo core. So her aesthetic is all pink, and she incorporates like heavy, like hyper pop, hyper feminine with like metal core,
Right.
and like driving beats and just crazy insane lyrics. Like she completely bends like what you would expect from a female musician or any musician really, and I think she's so cool. So if you don't know Scene Queen, listen to her. If you know her and you haven't taken her seriously, do it, because she is the baddest bitch and she's doing the most for the scene right now, especially for women in the scene.
What I find fascinating about someone like Scene Queen is that this is pretty much outside the box, which I think when it comes to going outside the box, I feel like every artist should be doing this because that's how you can stand out. And even if one person got what you're doing, I feel like it's worth it. And I'm so glad you brought this
Yeah.
up.
Thank you. Yeah, and she's just a very important person to have in the scene right now, and she absolutely aligns with the message of pop punk promo like so clearly and vividly. Like she wrote a song called 18 plus, which literally calls out pretty much every single man-led band from the early 2000s, like who essentially let really gross things happen in within their camps and stuff, like especially like regarding minors and like allowing minors on their buses and like just doing really shady shit. So like she is a really good person to like in the scene. She not only uplifts women, but she also calls out like the bad behavior that is like been going on for so long in the scene, and she's actively like trying to change and make a better and safer environment for women and children, teenagers in live music. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that that's always important to create an environment and set, and not only that, to set a good example to other people out there and be like, hey, you know what, like the whole point is to be respectful to other people's boundaries and making sure we're not harming anybody else. And I'm
Yeah.
glad, and I'm glad you've actually brought this up because this is one of those things that it feels like the entertainment business has been lacking for so many years.
Yeah. It's unfortunately all about making money and like turning a profit, and a lot of people, especially if they're famous at a young age, will make stupid decisions like that. And there've been an unfortunate amount of pop punk bands who have been accused with allegations that may or may not be true, or parts of it are true, and it's really gross behavior, and it's really cool to see other people like fighting against it, because it's something that we really need and people don't talk about enough. And if they do, it's like they go, "Oh my god, this band did this thing," and they talk about it for like a week or two, and then they suddenly don't talk about it again, and this band is still like going on tour. And like, yeah, it's shitty, and it's really cool to see someone actually stand up for the scene and stand up for the fans, because it's not fair. And a lot of people who are now in like their 20s, sometimes 30s, um realize that they had a really shitty experience with a band member much later in life, and they didn't realize it was shitty at the time. Like, for example, like some people will be like, well, I let this guitarist like sign my boobs, and you're like, what the fuck? And they're like, I was only 16. Like, that's not okay. Like, that shouldn't be something that is ingrained in pop punk culture. You know what I mean? So, long tangent short, listen to Scene Queen.
I mean, you know how when there's some elders that say, oh, people today and such crude behavior. Sometimes you have to listen to your elders when they say this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
Our elders who say this, they say, this is just such obnoxious, crude behavior. You know what? They have a reason why they say that, and with you pointing that out, it's
Yeah,
like, well, they're doing these really raunchy, bad stuff. Like, no, it's true. It's really disgusting, and I'm so glad you brought that up.
yeah,
And
yeah,
but I think at the same time, what you were also saying too, how when there's allegations against certain artists or certain members of a band member and all that too, I feel like that is public relations 101 is that whenever anything like that occurs, you gotta know how to deal with this kind of stuff too, right? If you make a
hmm,
mistake on something, own up to it, man. Like seriously, own up to it if
yeah,
it really is at your fault. Now, of course,
yeah,
this was a really interesting conversation I had with somebody too, who was who was into the same music, pop punk scene and everything like that. She and I we talked about it, and she says at the same time though, if there's allegations against you about something that you didn't do, back yourself up ASAP,
absolutely.
because
Yeah,
what's going to happen is that if you don't back yourself up ASAP, it's going to bite you in the butt long
yeah,
term, and it's going to hurt your image, and then people won't see the real you.
yeah,
Like these are different conversations, but they all link together in a way too, where it's like, well, how how do you want people to look at you, because you're out in the public
hmm,
eye now, and being out in the public eye is it's not easy. It's not sunshine rainbows where you can like it's not like that Fergie song where you can fly first class and sign
yeah,
autographs and have people admire you, and all that stuff. Like sometimes that it has a price, and what you say goes a long way too. It's just like, well, you gotta make sure you're not doing terrible stuff. If you are making a
yeah.
big mistake on something, if you've made a big mistake, own up to it, man. But if you didn't do it, then back yourself
Because
up and make
the
sure you
internet will find you.
exactly. Oh man, see that sounds like a
Like,
horror movie, but it's so true.
but it's true, and, like, even doing this podcasting thing, like, I'm definitely not even close to a celebrity. Like, I might be, like, a little bit known in some communities here and there, but, like, the idea that still someone can listen to my stuff, like, 50 years from now, and they might be like, "Oh my god, how did they ever do that in 2024?" Like, it
Oh man.
scares me a little bit, like, you know what I mean?
I know, but honestly though, life is never easy. But I know with you, like like you've been so consistent in wanting to care about different people of every kind, right? And I think, yeah, life is hard, but that should not stop us from trying to improve each time and still want to set a better example to other people. And I think your legacy of what you left already for on Spotify, and other avenues online to do pop punk promo, it still has a nice theme of standing up for the underdogs, recognizing the unsung heroes. I think that's a great legacy you're leaving behind so far, which I think is
Yeah.
outstanding. What I like about what you've been doing is that you've really brought out these really great conversations with these artists, and have them talk about some things that maybe doesn't get talked about in other interviews. Like how you and we have this real talk about how being in the public eye is not easy, and it's all
Yeah.
how do we handle it when there's controversy. There are ways we can, but again, but it's easier said than done, and I think that's going to be the tough part of should anyone head over in that field. But I think what's really important is at the same time is, I can tell that you have a great community that surrounds you and supports you in every way. And even if it has to be some really good friends or family members that have to say, hey, hey, Sid, you're doing a really great job. But then you need someone that's going to have to say to you, hey, you know what, Sid, I don't know if that's cool. That might have been a very terrible thing to say. You may want to, reconsider that in the future.
Yeah, and luckily, I haven't had any of that yet. I hope I never do. I like to think I have a pretty good moral compass, so I I hope that doesn't happen, but obviously I'm human and humans inevitably make mistakes. And I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, but hopefully none that get me, banned from the internet or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I never finished answering your question. We only got through two
That's right.
recommendations.
Because we got through such deep conversations about like controversies in the music scene. But I'm so glad we talk about it though. That's the thing. Like I'm glad we have this
Me too.
conversation.
Me too. And it's important to pop punk promo. It's important to what I do. Like that's the whole reason I started the podcast was literally to bring light to the underdogs, like you said, to help support a safe scene, to enlighten artists that don't have allegations, that don't do shitty things. They're good people just trying to make it like the rest of us. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of the point.
And
But
like we
yeah.
said too, and if they made a mistake on something, will they own up to it and improve from there,
Yeah, because that's truthfully all I ask, because there's been a handful of bands that have deeply disappointed me, and all I wish is that they would just own up to their shit, and they just don't. And that at that point, I'm like, I can't respect you anymore, and I can't listen to you anymore because, like, why would I support someone who doesn't have enough respect to, like, to look the people that they hurt in the face and say, "Hey, I even if I didn't realize I did this to you, I was young and stupid, like, I'm sorry," like, that's all I'm really looking for is some accountability, and that's what the scene has lacked for a really long time.
as John Lennon said, give peace a chance, right?
Mhm.
Make some
Yeah,
peace.
exactly.
Yeah, get your
Yeah.
act together, folks. Yeah, awesome. So, artist number 3, then. After such good, deep conversations,
Long-winded scene queen, okay? So artist number 3, I it's so hard because I have so many I wanna say, but I think I will go with Red Hook because I don't know, they showed up in my Spotify, like, probably 2 years ago or so,
right on.
and yeah, and I with their song Bad Decisions, and I was like, "Man, this song is so good," and I was like, "I gotta see what else they have," so I listened to, like, more, and they're awesome. So they have a female lead singer, her name is Emmy Mack, and they're
Cool.
from Australia. Um, so they're really cool. They don't really get around to playing in the States yet, which sucks, but, they're a band I'd really like to see live at
Right
some
on.
point. But they're kind of like a dark metalcore alt pop rock band, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a good amount of like screaming, but also just singing, and and they have such unique sound. I love the instrumentals of all their songs. I think it's so good.
Nice.
So if you've never heard them, check them out. They're awesome.
Awesome. And so they have like a signature sound too, right? When you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
if you were gonna check out Red Hook right now, my first song that I recommend is Dead Walk. That is my favorite song of theirs. I love it so much.
awesome. So
So,
Deadwalk. You heard it,
but yeah,
folks. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. So numero dos.
Wait, no,
Oh,
4.
sorry,
We're
4.
on 4.
Sorry.
We're on 4. I
I
know
need some
it,
coffee.
it's okay. We spent a long time on number 2, so that was 3. Number
Number
4.
4.
Um,
Quattro.
I would say, oh man, this is so hard. I think I would say Stand Atlantic. Because I've loved them for quite a while now. So they're a band that I feel like is pretty relevant
That's
in
right.
pop punk, but if you're not in the pop punk scene, you probably don't know them, if that makes any sense at all. So like they're popular in their genre, but like overall they're not a super popular band. They're
That's right.
also from Australia. I love them. Bonnie Fraser is their lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
I love her.
Right on.
But yeah, they're another fun band. A lot of so I think they're on album 5 now or 4. But their earlier albums, they leaned a lot more pop rock, and
Cool.
they definitely got a lot punkier as time went on, which I think is really cool. Their
Nice.
album Fear which is actually an acronym. It stands for Fuck Everything and Run. I It's probably my favorite album of theirs. I love it a lot. And then they have another album coming out this summer, which I'm really excited about.
That's amazing.
So
Awesome. I feel
yeah,
like this is a sign that maybe you should take a nice vacation to Australia one day.
I have
Oh,
actually.
you have?
That's the only Yeah, that's Australia and
Nice.
New Zealand is the only place I've ever been out of the United States. So, fun fact about me, I think I already mentioned this, but I grew up and I played in like concert band, jazz band, marching band, all that good stuff. So,
Yes.
I've played saxophone for like 12 years. And my college marching band, we did this thing where we'd go on international trips like every other year, and then, of course, I went to college in the midst of COVID, so we only did one international trip, but
That's
that
right.
trip happened to be Australia and New Zealand, and it was so incredibly sick. I spent like 3 weeks down there, and it was just amazing. I had so much fun.
That's awesome. And which actually funny enough leads me to my next question. So of course, obviously, like you said, you played the saxophone in the marching band and everything. So
Yeah.
why saxophone? Did you have any kind of inspiration, or was it the only available instrument for roles to play? What was it?
Yeah. So, here in Minnesota, at least where I'm from, we basically you had the opportunity in 5th grade if you wanted to join, um, band or choir, you could do that. So I was like, "Fuck yeah, I wanna join band." I don't know why, it just seemed cool, and I've always loved music. So I was between 2 instruments. I was between either the French horn and the saxophone, and ultimately I decided saxophone because it seemed easier to play to me, and I vibed with it more. I always loved it, because we did this thing in my elementary school where, like, yearly they would do, like, a little band concert where they would show off different instruments, how they sound, how they're played, and stuff like that, so that if you wanted to join band in your 5th grade year, you would have, like, an idea of what they looked like and sounded like, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I always appreciated saxophone, and so I started with that, and I literally haven't stopped. I graduated college, like, a year and a half ago, though, so I haven't really played much since then, but I'd like to get back into it.
Congratulations on graduating.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Um, but yeah, so saxophone, it's been very ingrained in my life, obviously. I played in jazz band in middle school and high school, which was super cool.
Nice.
And then I was in marching band in high school as well and college, as I said. Um, yeah, it's been super ingrained in my life, and I just love it.
That's awesome. And I'm going to assume, do you and your other saxophone friends always play the George Michael opening just to bug people?
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some characters who play saxophone, and it's fun. It's a good time,
That's
but yeah,
amazing. If you
yeah.
had a chance then to play any song on a saxophone that you have not played yet, which one would it be? It could be any genre, honestly.
Ooh. Um, there's one song by Ollie Murs called "Dance with Me Tonight" that I always wanted to play on saxophone because it has a
Awesome.
little jazzy tune to it, and I always wanted to play it. I don't know why I never did, but I always wanted to.
Nice, nice. Well,
Yeah.
I know despite you running the show called Pop Punk Promo, I mean, let's talk about a little bit of jazz. Do you have any specific jazz tunes or artists who you admire, or any songs that you always enjoyed playing?
Honestly, this is gonna sound so bad because of how much I like how long I've played the saxophone, but I don't like actively listen to jazz. Like if I hear jazz music, I go, "Oh my god, it's so cool," and like I vibe with it, but like I definitely am not an avid jazz listener, so I don't have a solid answer for this, unfortunately.
No problem.
But but yeah, I wish I did though because jazz is so cool. Like um Oh, okay, I remember, in one of my assorted bands I played in, we, um, we played the Incredibles theme song, and I thought that
No
was so
way.
fucking sick. I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome. I loved doing that. That was fun. And I actually got, like, the solo that year too. I got to do, like, the saxophone solo in it, which I thought was sick.
That's amazing. That's ama and
Thanks.
quite honestly, I would love to see this on your social media. No pressure, of course, but I would love to see you play the saxophone on Instagram Reels or TikTok one day, or even just on your own personal YouTube channel, just for fun, you know. And I would
Yeah.
love to see that talent that for you to showcase because you know, like I said, you've always been interviewing people, but I would love to see you do some sort of performance, just for you know the heck of it, right? Because you know I can tell that you're so you have this enthusiasm when it comes to saxophone. So kind of cool to see
Yeah.
you show us your stuff one day.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I've definitely thought about it, but I again, it comes down to I am a busy adult and I
I
want to
know.
so bad, but on
Yeah.
top of everything else, I'm like, I feel overwhelmed at the thought of it, and maybe one day I will,
Yeah, for
but right
sure.
now it doesn't feel like the right time, if that makes sense.
I know. In this busy
But I've
world.
definitely thought about it.
Yeah.
I've also, like I've also thought it would be really cool if, like, I got hired to do, like, a feature or something or, like, help build someone's song, put saxophone in it, like, I would love to do that. That would be so cool.
Can you imagine if one day, like 5 Seconds of Summer, or let's say any other mainstream artist says, "Yeah, we need a saxophone player for this one part of the song. We need someone who can do this, specifically someone from Minnesota." Hey, I know someone from Minnesota.
Yeah, that would be nuts, if I ever got to do that, and if there was ever, like, open auditions for something, like, I think I would definitely give it a try. I'd be like, "Fuck it, it's worth it." Like,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
With your experience in high school band, and you know, of course, in college band and everything like that, what have you learned from that experience? Is there any kind of like life skill that you learned from it, or any kind of just like anything in general that you learned from being in band?
Um, Definitely, I feel like discipline is one for sure
Cool.
because it was something I was dedicated to for so long.
Right on.
Like, even on days when I, like, didn't wanna go to rehearsal or whatever, like,
Yeah.
I would still, like, show up and go because it was like, I signed up for this, I love doing it, but even if I was exhausted, like, I was like, "I'm gonna have fun," you know, and, like, I discipline also in the way that I don't know if you ever been in marching band or anything?
I have been in high school band throughout my entire 4 or 5 years there.
Okay, awesome, yeah. So you know that, like, it's very, like, scripted and stuff, and there's a certain
That's
way they
right.
want you to stand and walk and, like, you stand at attention, so, like, it definitely builds a sense of, like, you have to do what you're supposed to do, and you're not supposed to, like, to slack off or anything, you know? So, like,
That's right.
I definitely learned a sense of discipline doing that and, like, showing up early, showing up on time, you know, like, stuff like that. I don't know, I feel like it definitely helped me in that way. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me, honestly. And as someone, like I said, as someone like myself who's been in high school band, for my in my entire high school life, like it was so important to have that kind of structure, and to make the song sound solid too, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's
Also teamwork.
teamwork. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And make sure you're
You
doing your
can't have a
job.
song without teamwork, everyone doing their part, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like look at all the bands, right? That are big today. They because they worked as a team. And so they held each
Yeah.
other accountable,
Exactly.
which again, this is so funny. This circles back to our deep conversation about holding each other accountable and making sure we do our jobs well, and we keep doing better every time. So it's just
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. And um it it's so crazy too, because when it comes to these bands, like the high school bands or the marching bands or college bands or elementary bands, like you gotta like I would say, like you gotta give props to all the teachers and conductors who are running the show, because imagine
Yeah.
running a class of 30 people, 30 plus people in a group. Because I mean, you think that like in a rock band, managing 5 people was a headache. Wow, like
Yeah.
30 people in the classroom. I mean,
But no, and especially I feel bad for, like, middle school directors, like, those kids barely fucking know how to pay attention to, like, one thing, much less, like, stay in time together. It's like I remember, like, I loved band so much, and I but there was always, like it was always such a struggle when the song wouldn't come together. I'm like, "Guys, it's not that hard," like, but that's probably because I'm very musically inclined, and some of those people were just there just because whatever, it was something they had to do to fill a credit or whatever, you know?
Because mom and
But
dad
I
made
always
me
loved it.
mom and dad made me take
Yeah.
the class.
Exactly, but, like, I chose to be in that space, and I loved being in that space, so, like, I don't know, it came easy because I loved it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And it circles back to what you're doing now because I can tell that you have been so influenced and you are so passionate about music, period.
Mhm.
And I can tell. I know this is only an audio podcast, but for those who can't see, there is a really cool tattoo of a saxophone on your arm. Is that correct?
Yes, so it's actually it's a Luma from Mario Galaxy, and if any of you guys have seen the Mario movie, at the very end, the Luma, like, plays the saxophone for no reason. I don't know why, it has nothing to do with anything with Mario, but I don't know. But I decided to get it tattooed because I was like, "Oh, I love the Lumas, I love Mario Galaxy, and I love obviously I play saxophone." So I got the tattoo. This is actually my newest one. I got this 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, so it's very fresh.
That's really cool. I'm really glad you put um, both those worlds are really cool because for me as a gamer myself, I played Mario Galaxy,
Yeah.
and and it's really cool having that character play saxophone is honestly so it's cute. I like it.
It was fun. It was a super random thing, like, at the end, like, after the credits and stuff, but I was like, "Oh, man, I gotta get it tattooed now." I was like it was just I don't know, Mario Galaxy was, like, my favorite Mario game ever
Yes.
growing up. That and Paper Mario. I loved Super Paper
Uh,
Mario
I,
on the Wii.
well,
Um,
I'll tell you though,
so
Mario
yeah.
Galaxy was not an easy game, especially when you play as
No.
Luigi after the first run of the game. I got
Yeah.
so annoyed because you know how like when you play as Luigi, you have to collect those purple coins, right? Well, I've
Yeah,
died
yeah.
so many times until I finally finished the game, but as it's one of those. Sadly, like I didn't want to play it again because I was just like, man, this is such a difficult game. I'm like, why did
Oh
they
my
make
god,
it so
I
hard?
feel you. But I loved it though, 'cause it almost feels out of the realm of, like, a regular Mario game. I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes sense, but,
yeah,
like, I loved it, and it has a bunch of unique characters in it, and I always had fun with it, so I
and
loved it.
you gotta give credit to the soundtrack of that game.
Absolutely. Okay, if we're talking soundtracks again, any of the Mario soundtracks were awesome. I loved Paper Mario, I love Mario Galaxy, like, Mario Kart, are you kidding? Like, the soundtracks are just unmatched, they're awesome.
Oh, I know, and but the intro to Mario Galaxy, da 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 da, it's like the most
Yeah,
epic thing you'll
yes.
ever hear.
It is, and I loved it. I loved it every time. Oh my god. Now I
Yeah.
wanna sit down and play it.
Oh, for sure. Cool. I'm so glad that you get to talk about all that stuff too, including like the video game soundtracks, because I feel like when you discover that there's like a cool fan base dedicated to that. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's just a really cool another world that people should definitely check out. Even if you're not a gaming fan, at least check out the soundtrack that comes with these games because man, there's some good music out there that could not be missed. So with that being
absolutely.
so with that being said, now if there was an opportunity for you to check out a live orchestra for a video game soundtrack, would you go see one dedicated to Mario Galaxy or just Mario soundtracks in general?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Like, I would absolutely do that. Like, Mario in general, like, Sonic, like, any of the, like, Nintendo type world stuff, like, oh my god, absolutely. Kirby, I love Kirby. I would absolutely do it.
It's funny how you mentioned Sonic the Hedgehog too, because I remember when Sonic and This is going to date me a lot because I'm actually like I'm an early millennial here, the elder emo basically as they call it,
Elder
but
emo.
right. So, but I remember like when Sonic and Mario were competitors because Sonic was on Genesis and and that's a different
Yeah.
company obviously. Sega was different, and then Mario was Nintendo. But they were competitors back in the day, and then many years later, the next thing you knew, Sonic is on the same platform as Mario, and I was so
Mario
shocked.
and Sonic at the Olympic
That's
Games.
right.
Loved that one.
So what was your reaction? What was your reaction when you saw Sonic and Mario running side by side together?
Honestly, I feel like I was still so young that I didn't really differentiate the fact that they were even different. So I was just like, hell yeah, Mario and Sonic. Like,
It's
so I honestly don't think I ever remembered a time where I like knew that they were separate,
yeah,
if that makes sense. Like
it,
I know that now, but as
yeah.
like a kid, I was like, oh yeah, video games or whatever, you know?
But it would,
But
I mean,
yeah.
it would pretty much be like if let's say if Superman and Spider-Man were running side by side together, basically, because those are
Oh
two
yeah.
different competing
Like that's
companies too.
so like yeah, anyone from the DC world in the Marvel world, like that would be fucking weird.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I completely understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, um, and what I find so fascinating with that too is that like because nowadays like things can come together in a way like you'll see some people merging and like worlds are colliding somehow. But this goes to my next question. So if you had the opportunity, let's say you can call the shots on this. If you were to bring two of your favorite artists to do a duet together, who would you bring together? Who would they be?
Ooh, that's such a tough question because I have so many artists that I love and adore, and then there's so many that would make good collaborations. Um, oh man. Okay. I would say water parks and Stand Atlantic. I think that would be sick.
Awesome. Good
I
answer.
I would love that. But I'm gonna go off of that for a second. I think so. Set It Off and Scene Queen have done a couple of collaborations
Yeah.
together, and
Yeah.
I think they're some of the best collaborations ever because like a lot of times you hear like a feature and it's just like they get to sing like part of the second verse or like the second chorus or something like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
like it's not like super relevant, but like Scene Queen and Set It Off like almost build the songs together.
Yeah.
Like there's for sure there's two songs that like one of Set It Off's that Scene Queen features in, and then
Yeah.
a Scene Queen one that Set It Off features in,
Yeah.
and like they're awesome. I like they incorporate their parts throughout the entire song. I think it's so well done, and
Mm-hmm.
I heavily respect like both artists so much. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's awesome.
And mad respect to Cody for being so diverse too, right? And
Yeah.
this circles back to what when you were mentioning about musicals. I mean, how obvious it is that it's so obvious that Cody has a background in musical theater because that guy is
Oh,
just
absolutely.
so presentational and theatrical in his own little
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like you can just tell even from like their album Elsewhere, like it gives so much like there's so much theatrics to it, and like even the music, like the instrumentals in cinematics, like that album is so theatrical and it's insane. Like I have mad respect for Cody Carson and Set It Off. Like they're out here doing amazing things, and now like they've been in the scene for quite a while, and they went independent, which is crazy, and they're like at the top of their game. Like they're out here killing it.
Oh, for sure. And I remember the first time, when I saw Set It Off live, um, I was so impressed by the style of music that they provide, right? And I knew like, man,
Mm-hmm.
these guys are gonna be huge one day, right? And
Oh
um,
yeah.
and this was like back in the early days too, when not too many people knew who they were quite yet, right? And so, I have this one friend, who really enjoyed Set It Off before, and kept talking to me about everything about the members and all that. But long story short, I remember like when I first met Cody like in 2018, like one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm
Mhm.
assuming you've met him before.
I have, yes.
Cool, yeah. And how was your experience with meeting Cody?
Um, yeah, just so nice all the time. Super genuine guy. Like half the time, because if you like pay for their meet and greets and stuff, like they'll usually Cody's on vocal rest. Which I say that in like quotes because he saves his voice during meet and greets so that he can give like the best show ever. Because a lot of time, like what really strains a singer's voice is like the constant talking while on tour. So
Yeah,
a lot of times he doesn't even say anything. But like the few times that he has, like he's just so nice. And even when he isn't talking, like he makes an effort to like make sure that you're seen and you're heard and like interact with you. And like
yeah,
if he likes like something you're wearing, he'll be like nice jacket or cool hair or whatever. And it's
that's
just
right.
it's cool, it's personal. And I really love him. I love the whole band. They're just really cool guys.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Um, eh, so we talk about concerts, right? Let's say money's not an issue. Let's pretend you got gazillions of dollars in your bank account and you can go anywhere you want for okay. So if there's any concert, like whether it be a current touring act or let's say any festival in the world that you could go to, which one would it be?
Slam dunk in the UK.
Really nice.
100%. I've wanted to go to Slam Dunk forever. I've wanted to go for so many years, and I've never been to the UK. And if I had a million gazillion dollars, whatever, I'm hitting up Slam Dunk. That's where I want to be.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
that
amazing.
that's where I want to be. Which I don't know. Maybe that's a poor move on my choice. I don't know. Someone from the UK needs to tell me. But otherwise, I it just looks like the coolest festival. And I think it happens on like 2 weekends, and they have like a stacked list of alternative and pop punk bands like every single year, and I'm eternally jealous every year. And it looks so cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And if you look at the lineup this year, it's really stacked.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's actually happening like this weekend.
It is.
Um,
Yep.
yeah.
It
So
is.
which might be why it's on my brain, but like I've always wanted to go there. And I'm like, one day I'm gonna make it happen. One day I'm gonna like save money, save some PTO and make it out there because I would love to.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think, we always, we all know there's like certain people that are on that lineup this year, and of course, we all know who, we know some people on that lineup.
Oh, I know some people. I might know a band called Water Parks that's at Slam Dunk this year.
uh well, and that's the thing with water parks, right? I mean, obviously, you've seen all the interviews with Austin, and you can tell Austin's quite the
Yeah.
character, right?
Oh, he is. It's sometimes it's hard to justify them being my favorite band, but at the same time, there's so many reasons to love them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
say that with all in jokes, because like he has a very strong internet persona, but like in real life, he's very nice. And like
yeah.
he'll only ever be a dick to you if you're a dick first, and that's just kind of the way it is. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
because
yeah.
like a lot of Parksies are intense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, if you're on his lawn and he tells you to get off the lawn, take it seriously.
Get off the lawn, otherwise you're not friends.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Oh man. Well, but if there was any I know we talked about Austin just now, but if there was any other big name stars that you could see yourself sitting down and let's say just having coffee with and just having good conversations, is there anybody that comes to your mind that you can be like, I can see myself having a good conversation with this person?
Um, there's a couple for sure. So like Austin Knight, obviously, like I would kill to like talk with him, not in like a fan perspective, like
Yeah.
just to like pick at his brain and like like how he creates music. Like I would absolutely die for that experience. But another person that comes to mind would be Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots,
Mm-hmm.
because so I've loved them for a very long time.
Yeah.
So they were also one of my entry level like rock band type, like whatever, in high school. Like I listened to them since I was in high school, and I absolutely admire the lyrical craftsmanship that comes out of every single album that they write. And it's so insane. And the storylines behind it, like I would kill to sit down for like 5 hours with Tyler Joseph and just be like, please explain to me like everything, like, which they have so much lore behind their music already,
Yeah.
but like and that's that I've personally done a lot of investigating on, and like
Yeah.
there's a lot of lore out in the you or the internet that explains kind of what it means, but like just to hear it from his point of view, it would be insane.
Give us the answers.
Yes, please, please. I would love that, but I feel like who else? I feel like I need like one more.
Sure. Yeah. Put in
I
one
don't know.
more.
I don't, I don't know. I feel like it would also be interesting to sit down with Haley Williams.
Yes.
Um, because she's had so much experience in the industry, and especially from such a young age. I would love to have her like even just on like my show and like chat with her about what
Mm-hmm.
it's been like growing up in the public eye and like becoming like literally the face of female pop punk. Like
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
it's insane. So like I would love to sit down and talk with her um in an interview fashion or not. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would love to just get to know her on a level like that. I've never been fortunate enough to meet her, but I would love to meet her one day.
I can see that happening for sure. Like I can see both you and Haley Williams just having this really deep conversation about everything like industry related, and I think you're onto something, and I hope that happens one day. So Haley, if you're listening out
Thank you.
there, please talk to Sydney.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've already had some crazy experiences that I never thought would happen. Like, my podcast has led me to so many musicians, and I've actually like I befriended Taylor Acorn through the podcast,
That's
which is
right.
crazy. I've befriended Cassidy Pope. Like, it's nuts. I never thought I would have been here. Like maybe 5 years like after starting this, but a year and a half I did not think so. So it's crazy.
Well, speaking of crazy, I just want to say, well, as we wrap up here, my hats off to you for running such. Again, I know I said it many times, but my hats off to you for running such a very cool, unique podcast dedicated to all these unsung heroes who deserve to be heard. You know, and of course, like I said, with your, with your history now that you've interviewed some really cool people on here, I'm putting myself aside just so you know. Okay, I can put myself aside
You're
here.
still a cool person. Give yourself some
All right,
credit.
all right, all right. Well, but just the fact that I've met you through Ricky, which is great. Again, thank you, Ricky, for introducing us to each
Thank
other.
you, Ricky.
Thank you, Ricky. This is the second time we say that now, because we said it for the last episode on your show. So
He
um,
always comes up.
he always does, yeah. And so, of course, it's cool to see you interview Ricky. You interviewed Taylor Acorn. You also interviewed my friend Caslin, which was one of the
Yeah.
episodes I listened to during my time in China too. So, thank you so much for
Nice.
that. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you interviewed our friend Maggie Schneider, who is another amazing, talented artist as well, who's just
Yeah.
crushing it right now too, musically speaking. So,
She
um,
is so incredibly talented. Like I can't even believe it. Like her voice is insane.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
they're doing great things.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that yeah, Glimmers is doing really well, honestly. So I'm not worried about them at all. Yeah.
No, I can see them getting pretty huge here in the next few years. Like they're really killing it.
Yeah. Give 'em a few years, yeah, or less, and
Yeah.
they'll be out there. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for creating such a really cool legacy already. I know it's only been like a year plus. since you started the whole podcast for Pop Punk Promo. But like I said, as myself, who's been interviewed by you too, we all of us really appreciate everything you've done for the local scene in general too. When I say local, it's every average Joe out there, who are working so hard, working tireless hours to make their craft happen, right, and to make it, in full fruition. And so with you, asking them about their albums and asking them about, their music videos and all the other good stuff too that people create, you've created such a really cool platform to make pop punk promo such a thing. And I'm glad, with in a world of rock, you put the emphasis on making sure, that people need to hear what these artists have to say through not just the interviews, but through their music as well. And I'm so glad to get to know you about your musical abilities, and just like you and I just having those deep conversations like we did earlier, about what's important when you're in the public eye, that kind of stuff too, so I'm really glad,
Yeah.
we also went deep into that kind of stuff too. So I thank you so much for that, Sydney, and I hope the next time, when people see you, they're going to be like, hey, you're that person from Pop Punk Promo. I think that would be really cool for you to experience
Oh
that.
man,
And
the day that someone recognizes me in public, I think I'll cry. Like I'll be like, I'm here now. Like someone, like you know what I mean? Like that.
somebody pinch
'Cause
me.
right, no, like seriously, because I again, like you said, like I interview like whatever the average Joe musician, and like, but I'm also just an average Joe, like doing this out of my apartment, out of my room, and like I interview people on Skype, like we're doing right now, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's crazy. So the day that someone does recognize me, I'll be like, "Hey, thanks for listening." Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It'll be cool.
It sure beats having some punk kid come up to you and be like, name 3 songs from that band of the T-shirt you're wearing.
Seriously though.
Like I tell you, like the last time that happened to me, because I know you were talking about this with your conversation with Nick last time for that last episode, right?
Yeah.
So last time I had that happen to me, my wife and I were in Vegas in early 2020 before the pandemic, and I was wearing a
Mhm.
Sleeping with Sirens shirt, and this teenage kid comes up to me and it's like, name 3 songs besides If You Can't Hang. I'm like, okay, kid, here we go. Name them like 3,
You're
not
like,
just 3, but
you're
4.
trying the elder emo here. Like,
So I named just not just 3, but 4 songs, and
oh my
the kid pretty
gosh.
much just stayed quiet after that. I'm like, yep, yep,
I
yep.
told you so. Like, I'll let you in on a secret. I only wear shirts of bands that I know at least 3 songs of. So no one's catching me off guard. No
uh,
one.
and even then, I'm just like, even then, man, kid, don't judge people by what they wear. Seriously.
Yeah,
As
it's
long,
fine. I'm like, I think it's. I mean, you listened to my opinion about it with Nick, but I'm like, I think it's overrated to just to go up to someone and ask the question, but I also, to a certain level in my own brain, I kind of just expect if someone's wearing a super niche shirt,
yeah,
like I kind of expect that they'll know at least 3 songs, but I would
yeah,
never go up to someone and just
yeah,
and ask them that.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm also I don't know if I come off as introverted or not, but I'm quite introverted when it comes to just like going up to people and saying things. Like I might compliment someone, but like I would never have the guts to say something like that to
Name
someone.
3,
I don't know.
the 3 songs game.
You know,
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah. Well, anyways, but again, Sid, thank you so much for being a part of this episode today, and it's been such a treat to talk to you, honestly. And like I said,
Thank
pop
you.
pop pump promo is going to be a fantastic thing that people should keep listening to. Do you have any final words before we sign off today?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, if you've never heard of Pop Punk Promo before, go follow us. We're available on Spotify, anywhere that you can stream music, Apple Music, all that stuff. We have a website, poppunkpromo.com. You can find everything and anything involving the podcast over there. We have literally a full list of all of our guests that we've featured. We have like links to the episodes, links to their music, all that good stuff. We have playlists we make too, like full of women in rock. We have like a holiday playlist. I have a release radar, so any new songs that come out in a week, like I put it on there for people to find really easily. Um, yeah, all that's on poppunkpromo.com. You can follow us everywhere else at Pop Punk Promo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sydney. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's episode. Like I said, we have quite a wide variety of conversations and questions we've tackled on today. And thank you, everyone, for supporting the Eddie Lam Show. And again, like I said, like Sydney said, make sure you support Pop Punk Promo. And if you have any kind of comments you want to leave on her social media, please do so. She appreciates you, whether it be like some feedback or you saying hi, whatever it may be. Please just feel free to interact with Sydney from the Pop Punk Promo gang, and she will definitely say hi to you back. She's very friendly, so please don't be afraid to say hi. So that is about it, everybody. Thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you all soon.
Cool. Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you.
No problem. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Eddie Lam Show, a podcast dedicated to interviewing musicians and online content creators of every kind. If you would like to be a guest on the program, feel free to send me an email at EddieLamMusic@gmail.com. That's EddieLamMusic@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out my website at EddieLamMusic.ca. That's EddieLamMusic.ca. You can also follow me on social media. Username is EddieLamMusic. That's EddieLamMusic on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning into our program. In the meantime, stay in touch, stay safe, and as always, stay awesome.